Wigan fans are used to winning things. 22 league titles, countless cups, shields and medals. Their fans have seen more silver than a royal butler. That's Wigan's rugby team, yes. Wigan Athletic Football Club, though, and just, 2 seconds, let me get the Wikipedia page up, and yeah, with all due respect to their assorted non-league and football league stuff, barely a pot to piss in by comparison. So then, when they reached the 2013 FA Cup final, the best most people were hoping for was just to, avoid an embarrassment. The Latics, you see, were up against the star-studded Manchester City, who were fresh off winning their first league title in decades. But the whole thing about underdogs, they do occasionally have a way of surprising the favourites, and this final would go on to be one of the most famous examples of that. And the thing is, for Wigan, who were one of the quote-unquote smaller clubs in the Premier League at the time, and who, in an age of billionaires running teams, were backed by a millionaire who made his money selling tracksuits, this was such a rare opportunity to not just outshine the town's rugby teams, but also the region's other football clubs. It's a pretty proud town, Stuart McConey, a Wigan native and lifelong fan, told FourFourTwo, but that pride has always been expressed through the rugby. Many local football fans were tempted by bigger clubs like Man United are literally right there, but McConey had followed Wigan's rise through the divisions. By 2013, he genuinely believed they could do the seemingly impossible against Manchester City. I always knew we had a chance, he told us. City hadn't yet become the global powerhouse they are today. And while Roberto Mancini's City squad did boast stars like Aguero and Silva and Tevez, and I could go on, Wigan's team was far less glamorous. Under Roberto Martinez, they were really struggling defensively, teetering on the brink of a relegation, and conceded 10 goals in just the 4 games leading up to the final, which made their run there all the more miraculous. Wigan's cup journey had begun with narrow victories over lower league sides like Bournemouth, because yes, they were a lower league side then, and Macclesfield, before an impressive 4-1 win over Huddersfield in the 5th round. We were sensational, Martin Tarbuck, editor of Mudhut, a fanzine, told FourFourTwo. Martinez found value in the places others didn't look. Key players like Aruna Kone and Callum McManaman helped propel Wigan through to the quarter-finals, where they stunned Everton with a 3-0 win at Goodison Park, securing a place at Wembley. Manchester City's route to the final had been predictably a lot smoother, with dominant wins over Watford, Leeds and Barnsley, but Wigan knew they had something of a chance. And despite Wigan's semi-final against Millwall being marred by off-field violence, they made it through and knew they were just 90 minutes away from creating history. And the thing is, despite the obvious disparity in footballing class between the two teams, things weren't all chocolate and roses over at Manchester City. Costel Pantilimon was undisputably their cup goalkeeper, not starting a single game in the Premier League, but playing 90 minutes in every single round on their way to the final. And yet, without warning and just hours before the game, he was dropped in favour of Joe Hart. It was really tough for me, recalls Pantilimon, who had been told he would play. I didn't accept it, okay, it was tough for me. I remember being in my room and crying a bit because I was frustrated. It was strange for everybody because the decisions weren't made the day before or something, just hours. Meanwhile, over the corridor, Wigan's spirits were buoyed by a motivational speech from their owner Dave Whelan, who had famously suffered his own FA Cup heartbreak decades earlier. In the 1960 FA Cup final, while playing for Blackburn, a stray ball fell right between himself and Wolverhampton Wanderers' Norman Dealey. Whelan got the ball, and Dealey's late challenge got his sock, his shin pad, and finally, his bone. For those who lament the modern standards of officiating, worth pointing out here that the referee just waves play on. Without substitutions, Greek mathematician Pythagoras having not invented them yet, I'd presume Wigan's 10 men were roundly beaten 3-0. Before the game though, Wigan's players, including captain Emerson Boyce, shared a poignant moment with Joseph Kendrick, a young mascot with a rare genetic disorder. He ended up calming me down more than I did for him because he's one of us, Boyce told FourFourTwo. And this human touch certainly did something, as the team started the match with such aggression they visibly shocked Manchester City. But still, quality does tell, and they nearly struck early. Wigan's goalkeeper Joel Robles pulled off a crucial save to deny Carlos Tevez, one that Boyce insisted to us changed the match even at that early juncture. And from there, it did look like Wigan's tactical approach was absolutely spot on. Despite, I guess, technically being a 4-4-2, Samir Nasri and David Silva were not providing that Man City team any of their width. They instead would look to drift inside and link up with Yaya Toure to help create chances for both Tevez and Aguero. The responsibility of hugging the touchline and stretching the defence then falling to Pablo Zabaleta and Gael Clichy. But Wigan simply did not let them settle. Callum McManaman and Aruna Kone in particular chasing down every loose ball at the back and not giving the City defence a moment's peace. Wigan's own fullbacks, but in particular Roger Espinoza, playing so aggressively that it forced City's all the way back into their own half. It was risky, don't get me wrong, and it was still allowing Manchester City to create chances, but as the first half came to a close, it did start to look like maybe it was working. And at the 45-minute mark, the game was still 0-0. Wigan weren't yet dreaming of a spectacular upset, but would have been growing in confidence that it was at least possible. As the second half progressed, City struggled to break them down further, and Martinez made a crucial substitution. Ben Watson, himself poetically returning from his own broken leg that had seen him miss 6 months of the season, entered the game in the 81st minute. His side's one and only change in the whole game, and he did the unthinkable. With the clock ticking 89 and City now down to 10 men, Pablo Zabaleta allowing the frustrations of the afternoon to manifest into a cynical hack at Maloney when already on a yellow card, it just happened. A nonchalant in-swinging corner dropped into the near post area and Man City's defenders remained planted to the soil. Zonal marking at corners is always the right way to defend until suddenly it isn't.
Which Maloney takes, and it's in! It's Ben Watson! It's Ben Watson for Wigan Athletic! They've surely won the FA Cup!
A 91st minute winner in the cup final against one of the best teams in the world. I was crying, Tarbuck told us. It was just the greatest moment. The dramatic final whistle confirmed Wigan's 1-0 victory, sending fans into a state of euphoria they had dared dream of. But for the players, that joy was bittersweet. They still had a crucial league match against Arsenal, which would, one way or the other, seal their fate in the Premier League. We couldn't even celebrate, Boyce told us. I went for a drugs test immediately after the game, and when I came back, the changing room was empty. I just got dressed and sat on the bus. And in the days and weeks that followed that final, reality did set in. Just 3 days after the FA Cup win, they were relegated from the Premier League, going down 4-1 at Arsenal. As cruel a reversal of fortune in football as has arguably ever been seen. The years since have understandably been difficult for Wigan. Financial troubles followed the sale of the Whelan family's majority stake in 2018. After a dismal period in the Championship and League One, Wigan were hit with a points deduction and relegated again in 2020. Further hampered this time by, you remember it, the COVID-19 pandemic. It's never boring at Wigan, Boyce told us. Did we celebrate because we won the cup, or did we have to be respectful because we've been relegated? We weren't sure, but when we had that parade, all the fans came out regardless. It was absolutely magical. Now, some 12 years after their unforgettable victory, Wigan faces new challenges. But that 2013 FA Cup win still stands as a beacon of hope, not just for the club's long-suffering fans, but for real supporters everywhere. If Ben Watson's late goal should have proved anything, it's that these things, as unlikely as they may seem, do actually happen, if you've only got the patience to wait for them.